Welcome to another episode of the OH-HighYo podcast, your go-to source everything happening in the world of cannabis. And I'm talking from culinary, arts and culture, health and wellness, product reviews, and community impact. We're here to bring you insightful conversations that educate, inspire, and elevate the dialogue around cannabis. And I am your host, Anthony Gaines, one of two hosts. I'm alongside my co-host, Will Baldwin.
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing today?
Right? What's the word, Will? Today, we've got a great show for the people today. We're going to dive deep into some of the issues that challenges the cannabis community still today. They still face these challenges, even in states like Ohio that have taken steps towards legalization. So, on that note, today we are thrilled to be joined by a truly knowledgeable and passionate advocate in the cannabis space, Mr. Tim Johnson. And Mr. Tim has been a vocal presence in the community, speaking out on key issues affecting the cannabis industry and fighting for the rights of patients, growers, and cannabis users across Ohio and beyond. He's been in the trenches when it comes to defending cannabis, reform, and educating the public about its benefits. You may have recently seen him on Facebook, like I have, speaking out about a particularly troubling incident that took place right here in Ohio, Yellow Springs, Ohio, to be exact, and it involves the raid of a local family's home in Yellow Spring, despite the state's medical marijuana program being in place. So we're honored to have him here to discuss this incident in greater detail and share with us how we, as a community, the cannabis community, the Ohio community, can help push for solutions to prevent these kinds of situations from happening in the future. So let's go ahead and give a big warm round of applause for Mr. Tim Johnson. How's it going, Mr. Tim?
Doing well. Thanks, gentlemen, for having me today. I appreciate it and hope we can share some insightful information to the viewers out there today.
For sure, for sure. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Today's topic is both critical and timely. We'll be discussing the Yellow Springs incident where law enforcement raided a family's home, if you didn't know, for allegedly cultivating cannabis despite their claims of doing so legally under the Ohio medical marijuana program. And this incident in particular has raised a lot of important questions about how cannabis laws are being enforced, the discrepancies between state law and local actions, and what can be done to protect the rights of patients and growers. Tim today will help us unpack all of this and more. Together, we'll explore the current state of cannabis in Ohio, cannabis law in Ohio, where the gray areas still exist, and how the cannabis community can band together to push for clearer regulations and better protections for those involved in the legal cannabis industry. So let's jump right into it. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. To kick things off, could you give us a little background on who you are and the work that you are currently and have done in the past?
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me, Anthony and Will. And to the community out there, those that don't know me, my name is Tim Johnson. I'm the founder and president of Cannabis Safety First. I created my company back in 2015 in the hindsight of bringing legalized cannabis to the state of Ohio, both a medical program and an adult consumption program. End of 2015, myself and a nurse and a pharmacist that I worked with, we submitted the white paper language to create, that led to House Bill 523, our medical program. Of course, you know that went into effect in June of 2016. It did take a couple of years for the regulators to get the language and so forth and operation. So we went operational dispensaries in January of 2019. The program has grown from there. My part of, as far as all that happens now, has been evolved around as working in government affairs, a legislative advisor, a security consultant, a patient advocate for veterans as well as patients, and as well as an advocate for the program itself, with my goal to build a robust, fair, and affordable program, for the people of Ohio. Along with advocate that type of work, I also do a lot of work on criminal justice reform and drug policy reform, along with some civil justice reform as well at the State House here. So for the last basic 10 years, 9, 10 years, I've spent at the State House focused on these areas of law and trying to bring these programs to Ohio and so forth. And so it's taken a while, but it's a work in progress, and we've still got a long ways to go. But we'll get there. At least we've opened the door.
Yes, sir. It sounds like, you're doing a whole lot more than just opening the door. And we appreciate the work that you're putting in, on behalf of us and everyone across the diaspora of cannabis, if you want to say, of this community, people who are in support or just inquiring about the legalization of cannabis. But straight into our topic today at Yellow Springs, I know I gave a very brief overview of what happened. Basically, that family in Yellowstone, Ohio's house was raided because of cannabis plants being grown. Could you give us a brief overview exactly what happened? Because I've read online a couple different things that they had too many plants in the backyard. I also read that the husband was a professional horticulturist, and the police couldn't discern between what was cannabis and what were exotic plants. Could you give us an overview of what happened, so we can clear all of that up?
Yeah, I think what we've seen, aside from Yellow Spring, now we've got several other incidents around Ohio. The initial, what I call injustice and government overreach from the Attorney General's office and let's just throw them out there, the Butler County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Jones, took it upon themselves, I believe, to do some political pandering with the election days coming up here. Jones is up for office. Yost is running for Attorney General in 2026, so it's kind of a you do me a favor now, I'll do you a favor later. And so what we've seen is money given from the Attorney General's office to the Sheriff's office to create task force to go out and, according to the agents, their comments to the media and to the families and so forth they've had touch with, was they came out to educate us on a program that we the people created. We don't need that education. Law enforcement doesn't operate that way. So this is how the reason I call it an injustice and government overreach is the fact that, I would ask you gentlemen, as I would ask anybody in the audience, that, think of one time that law enforcement came to your house with 20, 30 officers and said, hey, we're here to educate you on one section of the law. It just doesn't happen. It's not there. So, what they've done is, they've got in their helicopters and they typically do eradication programs with federal funds and state funds. That's a given. This year, they've gone a little above and beyond because we legalized cannabis last year. The program got kicked off in full force with the dispensaries open and so forth now, people cultivating at home. So they've taken it upon themselves to fly over residential areas. I don't think it's by guessing. I will throw some red flags out there that I believe a lot of it, some of the flight patterns I've seen recently with the helicopter, which is all over the state of Ohio now, and Highway Patrol's actually joined in on this as well. Their chopper has been spotted and so forth. Wow. So again, state dollars going into this, but I think what they do is they actually, well, we know they do. They follow social media the same as most of us all do, and they don't have a problem with following somebody, getting an IP address of where that residence is. When somebody's showing off their plants outside and it looks like a large grow. Well, it's easy to get the IP address, to get your actual physical address, GPS, and then fly over that residence and see what's there. Of course, when they see it, they notify the ground troops, and the ground troops are coming in, and they're using the verbiage of public view. We've seen your cannabis grown out back. Public view is not from the airways. Public view is from the ground level, from a street, from a sidewalk, without the application of any aid to look over a 6 or an 8 foot fence. So they're stretching, I think, what the law actually says. In an effort maybe to protect themselves as far as, for legal backlash and so forth. Now, I haven't heard of anybody that's actually received charges yet, but I have seen videos and heard of people that have had if you're over your 12 count, your 6 or 12 count plant count, they have removed the excess plants. The agents have, but everything has seemed to have gone. We'll say it. It seems to have gone peaceful at this point in time. But the ethical side of it, it's just it's just the wrong thing of what they're doing, in my opinion. And I've seen, as I said, I've seen some of the flight patterns. They're definitely going back over where from the past history of areas where they had past eradication programs and were able to, they pulled up all of that history and so forth, and they flew back over those same routes, looking for the cannabis growing and so forth. My whole issue with it was, if this is what you've got money and resources to do, then let's focus on other priority crimes, such as human trafficking, lost children, working felony warrants, this type of stuff. Drugs that are out on the street that are killing our families, our friends, our neighbors, and so forth.
Right.
Focus elsewhere.
Yeah.
Go for the cherry picking. So that's kind of my input on as far as what
A
And
hundred
happened.
percent.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna add this in. So, and I've done a lot of research, looking at some of the incidents that's happened in other states has had like this movement of getting marijuana, legalized and stuff. This same type of instance has happened in every state. So, like, it has actually happened in every state. At some point, there's been these instances where they want to educate what's going on, but really, it's more or less it feels like a bombardment. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Right. And
it's
to your point, so you just confirmed that it is true that the police do watch us on Facebook and can respond to it. So people posting their plants on Facebook and flexing off what they have, it's not just a myth. They can use that against you and have helicopters flying over you the next day.
right. Yeah, don't snitch on yourself, and that's one of
Yes,
the
no,
problems.
there's a task force that actually does that. Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
task force that will sit on computers and they hire hackers in to do that. Yeah. That's actually a real thing.
No,
Hmm.
you guys are exactly right, and unfortunately, but the cannabis community, we're our own worst enemies of wanting to kind of brag about what we're able to do. Rightfully so. Now that we can legally do it and stuff, but it's kind of to me, it's just not right to set on. I understand setting on the internet, and seeing who's showing pictures and so forth, and go, okay, there's an easy pick. Set on the internet and do child pornography and lure people in that are doing human trafficking and stuff. Sit on there and do that. I know that they do it. I'm not saying they don't. Been a part of it. Been there, done that. And so forth. But let's focus on that. What's the real harm to our society? Let's just bring up the sad incident that we just had happen here. The two hockey players in Jersey that were killed. One of them was a Blue Jackets here in Columbus. The night before their sister's wedding and so forth. And this guy that killed him flat out admits that he had 5 to 6 beers, and he's also a one of the instructors, I guess, or one of the aides or whatever at a drug rehab facility. Come on, let's face reality here. We don't see on the news at night that people are dying from cannabis or cannabis is causing this to happen or that to happen, but alcohol it definitely is an issue here. So, but yeah. Be more cautious. I can't say it enough. I try to say it as much as I can. Be cautious with who knows about your grow, how much grow you got, and so forth. People can be vindictive. Yeah, they may be in the cannabis community, but they don't have a problem if snitching on each other. They don't have a problem with stealing your grow if they get a chance to, or whatever it might be. So be more protective about what you show on social media. Don't keep it kind of low profile. And I can't say it enough. Stop snitching on yourselves.
No, we're gonna clip that up and put that out there because on Instagram, when I'm getting or moving around trying to find people in the community in Ohio, there's tons of pages of people just growing so many plants, and then in the bio it says only growing, not for sale. And then they got all these, you can count them right there on the page, and it's like they think of
Hmm.
that by putting these disclaimers that is helping them out. But I'm glad you brought that point to us today. We're definitely going to clip that. But on the point that you're talking about as well, with you being a legislator, advisor, being down at the state house, fighting and arguing against cases going on, legislation in the cannabis community. In your opinion, what does this incident and incidents like this signify about the current state of cannabis laws in Ohio?
Well, the media can take it and run with it, and it can be a negative reflection on the community as a whole. That people are going to say that we're running amok, we're going too far. We've bypassed by legalization. We've increased the illicit market, and so on and so forth. All that negative stuff can be said, but the fact is this: 2.2 million people voted for legalization in the state of Ohio. So let legalization be legalization. We're talking about cannabis here. We're not talking about something that's a severe harm to society at all, or even to individuals. You have to realize people, since the Harry Anslinger days of the Tax Stamp Act and all that, and the Nixon days especially, cannabis we've had embedded in our brains, through DARE programs and so forth of, oh Lord, this is, the root of all evil in society. Cannabis is causing everything, causes all criminal activity. We all know that that's not true. We still have to get out of that mindset in society as a whole. So what we need to do is step up basically and show them that we're better than that. Better than the perceptions that they have that have been out there, for generations and so forth. And that all we're really asking for is for the respect as they would with if we voted for anything else as a human right, to respect that, the
Right.
passage of that, and to let us do our thing. That kind of comes down to what it is.
For sure. And you hit on it a little bit. Helicopters, the police cars, raiding houses like this to quote unquote educate the public. How much money is going into that? We can only imagine. Have they created? Maybe we didn't know they created an education department at the police station, and that's where this money and funds are coming from. But keeping that in mind, I know you talk about people in the cannabis community. We can be our own problem. On the other side, do you believe that law enforcement's actions in situations like these are they common, and how do they impact the trust between the community and law enforcement?
I think it presents a negative relationship, but let's give the understanding that not all law enforcement is all gun ho about going after cannabis. Overall, the majority, from my time on the streets and so forth, it was something that was like, it's like finding chocolate in a candy store. It's just everywhere, but it's not a problem to us as far as you pull over a driver that just smoked a joint. They're not jumping out of the car and running or trying to get out of the car and fight. It's just not happening. It's not happening in domestic violence. It's not happening to smoke a joint and go kidnap a kid and put him into human trafficking. That type of stuff isn't happening. But through politics and through our laws, we continue to embellish the fact that the lower level officers on the street are like, come on, sarge, chief, captain, whatever, let me just go out and do my work and see what I can do without having to go out and chase taillights and stop cars, and see if I can find cannabis, and then see what that leads to as far as what can I seize and so forth for the drug seizure fund for all law enforcement departments as a secondary budget. So I think that the political pressure, which is a big thing as we see now. We hear, from both sides at the federal level what they're going to do is, with cannabis. Well, it's all BS. If you're going to do it, y'all have been there several times, so get it done. Quit talking about it. It's the same with HHS and the DEA talking about rescheduling to Schedule 3. Well, they pushed it out to like December 2nd, I believe, and I highly doubt that a decision will get done then. It's a tool for political
Correct.
gain. As I said, political pandering and so forth. But overall, yeah, it's we
And
look. But
what do you believe that political gain or aim is as it pertains to marijuana in Ohio?
it's to gain votes. It all comes down to gain votes, so that somebody, a candidate can get into office. And once they're in office, we'll see what they do. A lot of them get into office and they're pro cannabis, but when they're approached with pro cannabis at my level, anyways, at the state house, they kind of seem to cower down to it. They're afraid of what their party might say. I said, well, you're not here for your party. You're here for the people. That's what it is. So it's just it's a tool. It's a tool that we've seen used for, I don't know, I've seen used my entire life as being able to vote and so forth, and they continue to use it. It's a shame, but it is what it is. But it's time to change. It's time to open the toolbox and find a different tool in there to play with.
Cool. So my question for that is, as far as funding is concerned, do you think there's more funding going towards policing marijuana and making sure the educational factor is happening, or is that just a part of them getting their funding for their departments and making sure they're doing like the right things? Is that like a focus of just trying to make sure they can make more money for each department, or is that a focus just for the agencies in general?
That could go both ways. I don't believe there's money that law enforcement uses for educational purposes. If they were doing that, or politics,
Hmm.
we could be doing public service announcements about the reality and the truth. I've asked for that for 9 years at the State House to do PSAs on the cannabis, that we just created a medical program. Now we have an adult program. Here's the laws. Here's what you can and can't do, and so forth. We don't see that. We see negative ads on the radio or on TV now about impaired driving and cannabis. They don't touch on anything else, just impaired driving. If you want to educate a community, there's things called block watches that they have. The community comes together and law enforcement can go in and educate them. Hopefully, they'll do it in goodwill and tell the truth. There's town halls where local politicians can have a town hall, and they can do have people come in and say, here, have someone come in and educate them on the new bills. I've done a couple of those, and people are very receptive to it. But the people have the leaders in the community have to step up and do that, and then invite someone of knowledge to come in and share that with them. And we don't see that, federal or at the State House. We've begged and begged to take some of the tax dollars coming in and put out public service announcements, put up a billboard. No, we don't want to do that. You'll put up billboards for alcohol and tobacco, though, but you won't put it up for to inform people and educate people on the realities of cannabis that we've been lied to. And I don't want to be too negative on Dare, but unfortunately, Dare did what they did because that's what they were taught to do. And I think now they understand that they've taught generations of youth lies about cannabis. So it is what it is at that point, And then we've seen the DEA has redacted some of the language in the DARE programs now because they control that. But as far as cannabis, yeah, there's the other side of it. Then, as you said, Will, it does generate money, and the way that it does that is through drug seizure assets. Um, every department in the U.S., I know at least in Ohio, has a drug seizure asset fund. So if they make a traffic stop and they get a certain conviction and they find money involved with it, you can take that money and you put it. The police department gets part of it. The prosecuting agents or the prosecutor's office, they get part of that money, and then the DEA, who's not even involved, they get part of that money. At least that's how everything worked when I was there,
Wow.
and I don't think it's changed. So that's why I always call it a secondary budget for the chiefs of police who are not accountants that don't know really how to manage. Most of them don't know how to budget or manage their money. They just rely on those tax dollars coming in. So this is a way to get money to purchase equipment, clothing, actually to send their officers to school. So it's discretionary of how it can be used, which is a good thing. But yeah, it can be a generator. I know that I witnessed a department that was aggressive with a canine unit that brought in a lot of money and was able to outfit a brand new cruiser for that vehicle and the canine. And they continued to go out and make traffic stops on nothing, looking for nothing but drugs. And I understand that, but once you go out and look for nothing but human trafficking or people that have got felony warrants or that type of stuff, things that are harmful to our communities, but it can go both ways.
Right. And I think it's such a powerful thing. You sitting here going down to the State House every week, however so often you go, fighting for cannabis rights, fighting for cannabis legislation. And you yourself are former veteran and former police officer. What type of impact? I know that impact has to hold a little bit more weight when you go down to those state houses and speak on the things that you speak on. Do you feel like that gives you a little bit more leverage and credibility when you're down there at the state house?
Yeah, I think it does. It does hold a level of increased credibility. Being an Air Force veteran and having made it through that career, having
Yeah.
made it through a college degree, having made it through a law enforcement career, I think that they do tend to pay a little more attention. I'm not the one that the law enforcement officer that's coming down there still in uniform that has to answer to my department. I don't have anybody to answer to now. I answer to myself, so I can come down and tell the truth not only from the inside but also from coming from the streets. I can share that with legislators. I can share reality. I can share experience that most law enforcement officers don't have, or they won't come down while they're in uniform, and share the fact that when they get off duty, that they go home and consume as well. If it's not, cannabis, there's plenty of them that go home and consume alcohol and come into work drunk the next day. So,
Yeah.
they're set with a guideline of, okay, they come down to testify on a certain bill, and this is all they're allowed to say. I'm allowed to say what I want. If I get challenged, I'm allowed to answer back with what I want. So, yeah, it does
Right.
hold that.
Right. Of course it does. I think it's such a powerful thing. And do you get text messages when you down there and you fighting? You get a text message from somebody saying like, "Come on, Tim, you putting too much fire on us. Calm down a little bit."
I've been challenged a few times, but it is what it is. I'm pretty much, well, I want to kind of be challenged because typically when I do get challenged, I can share a little bit of life's reality with the individuals. As well as that, there are several legislators that participate in the cannabis community. They have that right to, but for them to announce that at the state house that they do could jeopardize their political position or their political power in their particular party. So they still have to hide behind whatever it may be to say, I'm all in favor, and I smoke myself, I do this, I do, but I can't let them know it, I can't let the community know it because I may not no longer have my my political position. But for me, that's not what it is. But yeah, I've gotten texts before, sitting in committee hearings and saying, asking to be kind-hearted. I'm kind-hearted when I go down. I really am. But if you want to fire me up, and we'll go ahead and play baseball right here in the
Fire
committee.
him up.
So yeah,
And
let's do what we got to do.
let them see the real guy.
No, of course. I just think that's great. Our media company, we our mission is having people with opposing ideologies to sit down and have conversations on those topics. So we believe in, the contrast of ideologies, challenging each other because we believe the answers are somewhere in the middle. So it's important for people like you to fight at the state house. We do community work here in our community. I think that is a very important thing. And on that point, a question I have for you. Next question is: how can the public get involved in advocating for better policies and protections for cannabis users and businesses so they can avoid a similar situation like what happened in Yellow Spring?
You can participate. You have to realize that we, the people, put people in office. The state house is our house. It's not the house of the legislators that are there, but it's the people's house. Our tax dollars paid for that. I understand they pay taxes too, and their tax dollars, but it's not just their place. It's our place as well. And even at a local level, local council halls and so forth, town halls, etc. Those are put up by the people that pay taxes. That's so you have a right to use your voice to share your opinion. A lot of times, it may be challenged by your employment or your position in society, and some people, and I respect that. They may not, Joey may not, want the people on Wednesday night at the golf course where he goes and smokes cigars and drinks bourbon whiskey and they play cards. He doesn't want them to know that when he goes home he smokes a joint. I respect that. Everybody's got their right and so
Right.
forth, but you do have a right to stand up and go to these local town hall, local council meetings, come down to the state house and testify before a committee. You've got a right to voice your opinion and say what it is, to share your ideas and so forth. But I do respect and understand those people that still have to, because of the way society is, because of the way our laws are, they have to protect their jobs or the way people look at them in society and so forth, and their circle of friends and etc. So, but yeah, definitely, don't be afraid. You can write up an op-ed and send it into the local media companies. It might get published. You never know. There's a lot of things that you can do. You just have to participate.
You have
Here
to.
in Louisville, op-eds have a lot of power. People write a lot of op-eds, and people listen to those opinions. So yeah, that's a very powerful tool that the public could use, especially when you have national media like that too, as well.
Right.
So getting involved, like you said, I can understand as well the perception. Nowadays in social media world, everybody has their own brand. Your Facebook profile, your Instagram profile is your brand. Jobs are looking at your social media. We just learned the police are looking at your social media. So your profile is your brand. So I can understand why people don't want to put themselves out there. But on the flip side of that, outside of those people, I think the key issue I think you would agree with is education. I think that
Mm.
the education system did a poor job at teaching us here in America, at least my generation. I'm a millennial, I'm 32 years old, teaching our generation um, the real process of getting involved in a political process, like what it is that you can do and what it is that you should do. I feel like they touch on it a little bit in elementary school and middle school, and then it just goes out the window after that. So when people become adults and then you run into issues like this, everybody's just running to social media talking about what they're upset about, but don't really know how to get involved. So, what role do you see education and public awareness playing and changing perceptions and influencing policy?
Well, I think you're correct there, Anthony. Educational awareness is the key. And in our educational system in America, we have the opportunity to kind of dictate what gets taught. I think that, as you said, early on, first in elementary school, we learn, I'm just a bill sitting here on Capitol Hill, and then they're done with it. My opinion, I think, in your latter years of high school, your junior and senior year, there should be mandatory courses for certain levels of politics. I think those of us that go onto college, that there should be mandatory courses of politics in America, local politics to state politics to federal politics, so that people understand what are your rights? Because also often, everybody says, I got a First Amendment to say this. I go, well, you got a First Amendment to say it, but when you say it, you might violate your Fourth Amendment. You might violate your Fifth Amendment. You might violate your Second Amendment. You don't know if one amendment could violate another one, So you have to be cautious and careful in using any of your rights. And it's very, to me, it's paramount in education to the same as we teach people how to be respectful of society and to maintain the order that we have, but also to educate them on the politics that control that society. So I think it should be, mandatory classes as far as I'm concerned.
And my big thing about legislative and like state and national law, we don't see a whole lot of that, but there's a lot of lobbyists on every level. It's not just the national level, it spreads throughout all the systems of government. So I'm pretty sure you have a time with some people who have anti weed policies and kind of lobby against that too as well.
Oh yeah. I am a lobbyist here in Ohio. I'm a pro bono lobbyist. I've never been paid to lobby because I'm a consultant as well. If somebody hires me to do something, I do it as a consultant. I do a pro bono lobbyist because it helps as far as influence at the state house to get my points across when I testify before committees on whatever it might be. But yeah, there are lobbyists for organizations such as some of the religious organizations, Smart America or Smart Approaches Against Marijuana, the SAM projects and stuff they fabricate a lot of information that they bring down there without evidence or any kind of science-based support to whatever they come down there, or it's just the same old thing that we've been hearing over and over and over. One quick example is cannabis is a gateway drug to everything. Well, 1944, our own federal government in the LaGuardia report said that cannabis is not a gateway drug. A gateway drug, in my opinion, from what I've seen on the streets and so forth, is if I run out of my drug of choice for that day, whatever I can get a hold of next, that what I couldn't get a hold of became my gateway drug to the next thing. So a gateway drug is just a theory. There's no science behind it. It's kind of a negative connotation that the naysayers use to try to get their way and so forth. But typically, everything that has been presented in the last 9 years that I know of down at the State House where I've been involved, we've debunked pretty much everything that they brought before us. And I don't want to get into too much of the religion side of it, but that's one of the biggest pushes back down there. But I've pointed out the multiple scriptures in the Bible that talks about cannabis. The easiest one to remember is Genesis, is every seed-bearing plant. It doesn't say every seed-bearing plant except marijuana. It doesn't say that. It just says every seed-bearing plant.
Right.
So, for someone to try to say, well, to me, I look at that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I'm reading what it says. I'm not cherry picking the Bible. I'm not cherry picking the scriptures to what satisfies my congregation to make them happy, so that they throw more money in the coffer when it goes around. So, there are.
No, yeah,
It is what it is, and sometimes I say it like it is. So, some like it, some don't. But as I say, it is what it
yeah.
is.
The religious topic, that can be real sensitive.
Yes,
But I appreciate you bringing that point up, and I also appreciate you bringing the point up about gateway drug. I think that, like you say, you think that's a myth. I believe that's more so a mental health issue rather than any particular drug being that gateway to you wanting to do more drugs. So I agree with you 100%. One more thing on what you were talking about, Tim. I respect you a lot because as a former police law enforcement officer, as a former veteran, and seeing the work that you are doing today, it's clear to me and our team here that your actions and your ability to discern matches. And I bring that up because you talked about politicians who use cannabis at home, but have to come to work and go against cannabis in legislation. And I've always wondered to myself when I'm a political science major myself. So I'm that guy that's watching C-SPAN like it's the NBA finals
One out
game.
of style,
Right. So
like.
so I've always wondered though, how can these people be so smart? They have so many degrees. They have so many accolades. But then when it comes to certain issues, and when I watch them the way they speak and how they rule and vote on certain issues, I'm like, these things are not matching. It's like they are smart, but their actions aren't matching their smartness or their ability to discern what's going on. It seems like it's just lacking there. And for me, I just deduced like that can't be possible. I don't believe you can be that smart and not be able to discern what it is you're actually doing. So I can only, surmise that politics is really politics. Everything that you thought about politics really is really just that game, and these people are, playing the game to the best of their ability for their own ambitions. Can you speak on that and how you see that down? Since you're at the state house all the time.
I would say this: it's compliance to party affiliation. Most politicians don't vote with their education, their knowledge, their heart. They vote. They could totally be against a topic, a bill, whatever it may, an amendment or whatever, totally against it. But the party says to vote this way, so they'll through party affiliation and compliance for the party, they'll go ahead and vote that way. I've been challenged myself down there when well, I had a senator once that I knew had a PhD degree, and a comment was made, and I just called him out on it. I says, you know, the most sickening thing here in these hearings today is the fact that you dumb yourself down. And when I said dumb yourself down, they took it, I guess, the wrong way, and wanted to challenge me a little further, but
Of course.
you know, it didn't turn out real good for him.
Yeah.
The fact of, you know, I was accused of being a unfit father because I was a cannabis consumer. Well,
Ooh.
my daughter was earned a full ride scholarship for a Division I college to play sports, and was on the dean's list every year every year at college. She's actually played professional for a while, and she is actually doing very well right now as a mid-level executive for a company. My question to her was, you know, what have your children accomplished? What have you helped your children accomplish? I knew what her children
Ooh,
were.
I know she ain't like that.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, and I didn't want to beat up on her or anything like that. But when she made the remark about my parenting skills, it irritated me. You know, and
Hmm.
you're just, you know, you're sitting there with a PhD. You got to have some kind of common sense. But as I said, they dumb themselves down a lot, just so that they're accepted by their party, for whatever the idea might be. So that does play a key important part in there.
No, I'm glad you touched on that. Now, when we move towards solutions and community support, you know, like you said, get involved, no matter what that is. Submit an op-ed to your local publication. Go join Tim at the State House. Start your own, you know, media platform. You know, it's 2024. People have their own voices. You know, rally your community together. All these things that people can do. Are there any other legal resources out there available for those who might find themselves, you know, searching for how they can get involved?
Yeah, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations out here that get involved, and do what they do, whatever the topic might be. But for, you know, just the average person, if you want to get involved, we have this wonderful thing. You know, I grew up with what, you know, the what was it, Webster Dictionary and some encyclopedias and so forth. You know, that stuff took a long time to research that stuff, find it, come up. You know, now we got to push a couple of things, and you know, stuff will come up. Now we have to disseminate out of there what's the truth and what's not the truth when we look at it. But you can find out who, like, your local you know, politicians are, when their meetings are, and so forth, and attend those meetings and so forth. You can just simply email them and share your opinion. At state level, you can go to legislature.ohio.com or .gov, legislature.ohio.gov, and you can track everything that goes on at the State House. You can watch it live when they have hearings. You can come down and testify. You can submit a testimony and not even have to come down there on a particular topic. You can send emails to any of the legislators. Give them a phone call. You can, you know, track bills, track the legislator, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and you can see how the state level politics works. It's a very insightful website to go to, and you can get involved there. You can, as I said earlier, all the different nonprofit orgs, you can find out who they are and maybe get involved with them and participate at different rallies and stuff that they have. You have a right to do it. You know, a lot of people are just afraid. As I said, you know, they're afraid to get out into society and be a part of it, to make change, to create change. But if we, the people, don't do that, then we get just what we've got coming to us. You get you know, politicians that run amok, and it's all about them and how much money they're going to have in their bank account when they retire. You know, they don't go for having their name. Very few of them. There are a lot of good legislators. Don't get me wrong. A lot of great legislators at the state house, but there are some that they're more interested in, you know, the back end of what their bank account's going to look like, rather than having their name on a plaque that they did this for society as a whole. That recognition, that simple recognition. Get involved. Don't be afraid to, you know, get on there and go out and, you know, meet other people in the community and see where you can help out.
Right.
And speaking from experience meeting people in the community, Ohio has a great like base when it comes to cannabis. Like everybody we've met in the industry has been amazing.
Yep.
Even the chefs, even the growers, people who are just a part of the community, they're very close knit and they're willing to give you all the information. So it's very it's a very good group that could teach you a lot if you just kind of tap in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. We do have a
Do
very.
something, say less.
I'm sorry. No, we do have a
I
very.
said, do something, say less. That's what.
There you go. Do something, say less. Yeah, or do something now. Anything, you know. I think Nike said it. Just do it. You know, we've been hearing that for how many
Let's do
generations?
it.
So, you know, get involved. Don't be afraid. You know, don't back down. You know, share what you can share and participate. A good example is, and I'll throw out a plug here for Lenny's event coming up, the OCHBS that you guys are going to be doing some podcasting there, or OCHBS.com event. Come up and see these gentlemen and talk to them during their podcast. And I had I know I was a few minutes late, but I just left the meeting, and just to share what I can is there's going to be some good information shared for what issue two on the social equity side, as far as cultivation and dispensary license that are going to be available. There's going to be some good information shared there for how people can get supported and get help to maybe get one of these licenses and get involved in the cannabis community. So showing up at different events like that. I mean, there's the cannabis events every weekend. You know, throughout the week, even, you know, in Ohio now. Now that we've, you know, done a medical, we've got, you know, the adult choice and so forth. You know, issue two fell short of a lot of things, criminal justice reform and so forth. Issue two was focused on, you know, making the licenses available and protecting the license holder. Is what it is. Let's face it. Every state's done that. Nobody, you know, they don't come out with issue two that's about criminal justice for, you know, cannabis reform. So that's why, you know, 6 years into the medical program, we're still revising and amending the medical program for patient protection. So it's going to take us years to do amendment language to issue two, to protect those who participate and you know, protect their jobs, you know, give them opportunities for, you know, employment, for banking, for going to school, for, you know, not having your child taken from you because you smoke a joint at night or whatever. You know, I can go home, drink a bottle of bourbon and, you know, abuse my kid and everything, but I still get to keep the kid. But Lord knows if I, you know, smoke a joint and here comes Children's Services, you're unfit, we're going to take you, we'll take your kids. There is a lot of support out there, and we're starting to see more support for the cannabis community from the legal field or the legal discipline from the medical discipline, more people like that, even from the religious viewpoint. You know, we're starting to see more of that acceptance and coming in and supporting us as a whole for, you know, what our goals are and for what we're doing.
Great. My last question to you, Tim. I know we got to get out of here, coming up on that hour. But when we're looking ahead, as we're looking ahead, what do you think the future holds for cannabis legislation in Ohio, especially with the rollout of this new recreational, or as you call it, adult use, being rolled out?
Mm.
I think I'll see some of it in my lifetime. I think you guys are going to enjoy a lot of it in your lifetime here, coming up with the changes that are going to be presented. We'll see when we get back in session in November. There's some bills going to be presented. A lot of it's going to be centered around criminal justice reform. And next year, with new, you know, we'll see more bills introduced and so forth. The industry itself is a boost to our economy. It's a boost to people, you know, having jobs, putting food on their table, and putting, you know, having a home or whatever it may be. It's a job. So we're going to see this over the years. We'll see it change slowly. It's taken us, you know, 80, 90 years to get where we're at now, and we're starting to get past that. The old prohibition laws are starting to go aside, and cannabis is becoming a mainstream industry in society now, and so we're going to see a lot of positive things out of that. You know, it's not always all about money. That the dollars that are going to be pouring into communities and so forth that have facilities, even though that is a very major effect to you know, a community that has a dispensary, but you know they can't afford, you know, a swimming pool. Well, maybe now they can get a swimming pool. Something off that, maybe they need a new fire truck. They need a couple new police cruisers, whatever. The whole realm of that, a playground, whatever it might be. So it's another industry that we're going to make legitimate, here in Ohio and across the country, across the world. It's happening. Other countries are doing it too. And it's going to open up a lot of opportunities. I can't think of the last time that we've seen a whole new industry pop up all around the world and what it's done to
Right.
society as a whole.
Right.
So a lot of good things coming.
And pre sorry, prohibition, I can't say the word. I'm sorry about that. I can't speak today. Uh, there was a whole industry with hemp, and that's what's crazy about it. Going to the museum, I didn't realize that there was that much history of how much they used it and how much it changed things, and all that. All that information was lost after prohibition. So it's crazy that we have to kind of restart and reestablish a lot of that information. But at least we have the tools to learn from what was already happening and kind of get it reestablished. So it's really cool, man. Like learning all the stuff that we've learned the past couple, trips that we've taken in Ohio. It's there's a lot more that can be done with this type of plant. Like there's so much more that can be done if we just allow it to be done.
Yeah,
So yeah,
very, very, very true. You're right on, Will. And there's a place here in Ohio called the cannabismuseum.com right here in our own backyard. You go on there and you can read the history of cannabis for thousands of years in the past. But as you said, in kind of like, I guess, modern times or whatever, cannabis from 1850 to 1942 was one of the top medications used by doctors, giving it out for a variety of things. We've seen the 1914 Narcotics Act. It left out cannabis because it knew it wasn't a problem. And then along comes, the late 20s into the 30s. And all of a sudden it's about big pharma. It's about, the Rockefellers and DuPont and all that, introducing, the Eli Lilly drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, protecting fiber, optic fibers, or fiber and stuff now instead of using hemp. Our military clothing used to be predominantly, a lot of it made out of hemp. There was a time when our government ordered some farmers to grow hemp for the fiber of it. So hemp's got so many uses that can be used for. I mean, from plastics to ropes to all kinds of things, clothing and so forth. And we just have to get there. We have to change those mindsets and so forth. I'll share this with you. One of the funny things at the State House, when I would go in, I knew a lot of the troopers that worked there. And when we first passed the medical bill, I started telling the troopers, the next thing I'm going to do is legalize your hat for you. And they would always laugh, like, what do you mean? So in the Ohio Administrative Code, state troopers and deputy sheriffs, their hats are made out of hemp. And they're still made out of hemp. So if they had you on the side of the road writing you a citation for that half a joint in your ashtray, they were wearing a joint on their head. They just didn't know it. So we did actually when we hemp program in Ohio. They all started when I would walk in, they would applaud and say, "Yeah, there's Cannabis Tim. He legalized our hats finally for us." So that's what we got to look at that type of stuff. Hemp is just so valuable. We could, for the environment and so forth, acre of hemp versus how you can redo it every year. And, for an acre of woods, it's, 20, 30 years. And not only that, hemp is, much more, friendly environmentally and so forth. So there's a lot of uses there.
No, yes, sir. And we plan on touching all those topics, going through the history of hemp, and we live in an information era now. So you all's point about losing that history, losing that education, with people like Tim and people similar to him, people like us putting on these platforms. I think all the information is going to come back around, and we're going to be able to take it to a new height as far as the usefulness of hemp and more. So we appreciate you, Tim, taking the time to speak with us. It's been a long time trying to get this happening, so I'm glad we've been able to make this happen. It ain't been too
yeah.
long, but we had a couple takes. But I'm glad we've been able to make this happen. Where can people get in touch with you? Where can people find you at on social media?
I got you can go to Ohio or CannabisSafetyFirst.com. And my email and my phone number is on there. You can find me at the State House a couple of days a week, 2, 3 days a week, usually. As far as other things on social media, I have Cannabis Safety First on Facebook. I have Ohio Cannabis Community and Ohio Adult Cannabis Community. And if you want to go to Twitter, where all the politics hang out and snitch on each other and bitch and complain about everything. I follow Twitter a little bit, but that's primarily or LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I've got a very large following, and the platform I do, it's an inclusive platform to bring in all levels of different disciplines and education and so forth to get people talking amongst each other. Had people say, "Why did you invite me to your page?" I says, "What? It's perhaps